Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the tall halls of the Galactic Council building. Her black shoes made soft clicking sounds on the smooth crystal floor. Above her head, the ceiling showed a perfect view of space with thousands of stars twinkling like tiny diamonds. She had seen this view many times before, but today it felt different. Today might be the last time she would walk these halls as Earth's representative. The meeting room was huge. 50 different alien species sat in a circle around the center where Sarah would have to stand. Each species looked very different from the others. Some had blue skin and forearms. Others looked like giant insects with shining wings. A few resembled walking trees with faces carved into their bark. But they all had one thing in common today. They all looked angry. At the front of the room sat Admiral Kethvar of the Vorthon Empire. The Vorthons ruled over many other species and had the strongest army in the galaxy. Kethvar was tall and thin with gray skin that looked like stone. His red eyes glowed in the dim light. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping against metal. Human, Kethvar said, making the word sound like an insult. You stand accused of being a danger to peace in our galaxy. Your species has fought too many wars. You have killed too many beings. You cannot be trusted with advanced technology. Sarah took a deep breath. She had prepared for this moment for months. Honored council members, she began. Earth has only defended itself. When the Krex pirates attacked our colonies, we fought back. When the Zephyrian fleet tried to steal our resources, we protected our people. We have never started a war. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish with tentacles spoke up. You humans are too violent. You solve every problem with fighting. This is not the Galactic way. The Galactic way? Sarah asked. You mean the way where strong species take what they want from weak ones? Where the Vorthons rule over 60 different worlds? Where planets are stripped of their resources and their people become slaves? The room became very quiet. Many of the council members looked uncomfortable. They knew Sarah was telling the truth, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Kethvar's red eyes blazed brighter. How dare you question the order that has brought peace to our galaxy for 1,000 years? What kind of peace is it? Sarah asked, when it only exists because everyone is too afraid to fight back. Another council member, a being that looked like a large bird with silver feathers, spoke next. The issue is not our system of government. The issue is that humans are hiding dangerous weapons. Our spies tell us that Earth has been working on secret military projects. You refuse to let our inspectors examine your research facilities. Sarah smiled sadly. Would you let foreign armies inspect your most important buildings? Would you trust people who call you violent and dangerous to walk through your homes? The bird creature ruffled its feathers. If you have nothing to hide, why not let us look? Because some secrets exist to protect people, not to hurt them, Sarah replied. Kethvar stood up from his tall chair. Enough of this talk. The Galactic Council has made its decision. Earth will agree to complete disarmament. You will destroy all your weapons. You will allow permanent monitoring stations on every human world. You will submit to our authority in all matters of technology and defense. And if we refuse, Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer, then you will face total sanctions. No trade with any galactic civilization. No access to galactic technology. No travel between the stars except to your own worlds. No communication with other species. You will be completely cut off until you learn to behave properly. Sarah looked around the room at all the different faces staring at her. Some looked satisfied. Others seemed uncomfortable but said nothing. A few actually looked sad, as if they knew this was wrong but were too afraid to speak up. How long do we have to decide? She asked. You will give us your answer now, Kethvar said. The human fleet is small. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Your people need trade with other worlds to survive. You have no choice but to accept our terms. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. She thought about her home planet Earth with its blue oceans and white clouds. She thought about the colonies on Mars and Europa and Titan, where millions of humans lived and worked and raised their children. She thought about all the things the Council did not know about humanity. I need to speak with my government, she said finally. You have one standard day, Kethvar replied. After that, the sanctions begin whether you agree or not. We suggest you use your time wisely. Sarah nodded and turned to leave. As she walked toward the door, she heard the council members beginning to talk among themselves. Most seemed pleased that the human problem would soon be solved. They believed Earth would have no choice but to surrender. In the hallway outside, Sarah was met by Ambassador Vexitar, a representative from one of the smaller species that often got pushed around by the Vorthons. Vextar looked like a shorter, rounder version of a human, but with skin that changed colors based on his emotions. Right now his skin was a worried purple. "Ambassador Chen," he said quietly, "I am sorry about what happened in there. Many of us do not agree with this decision, but we are afraid to speak against the Vorthons." "I understand," Sarah said. "Fear makes people do things they know are wrong." "Is it true what they say? Do humans really have secret weapons?" Sarah looked at the small alien for a moment. "Every species has secrets, Ambassador. The question is whether those secrets are meant to hurt others or protect them." Vextar's skin turned a thoughtful green. "I hope your people choose wisely. The Vorthons are very powerful. They have destroyed species before for refusing to obey." "Thank you for the warning," Sarah said. "But sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is give a cornered animal only one way out." She left Vextar standing in the hallway with a confused expression on his face. Sarah had a message to send to Earth, and she suspected that very soon, the Galactic Council would learn that they had made a terrible mistake. As her ship prepared to leave the space station, Sarah looked back at the massive structure floating against the stars. So many different species living and working together, but all under the shadow of Vorthon power, all afraid to speak up for what was right. Soon, she thought, that might change. But first, Earth had to survive what was coming next, and that would depend on secrets that even she did not fully understand. The journey home would take 3 days. Sarah hoped that would be enough time for her people to prepare for what the galaxy was about to unleash upon them. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council had placed sanctions on Earth. Admiral Kethvar stood in his command center aboard the massive Vorthon flagship, watching reports come in from across the galaxy. The walls around him showed dozens of screens with information about human activity. Most of the news made him very pleased. "Status report," he ordered his aide, a younger Vorthon officer with bright green eyes. "Sir, the sanctions are working exactly as predicted. Human trade has dropped by 95%. Their outer colonies are reporting food shortages. Medical supplies are running low on Mars. The colony on Europa has asked 3 times for permission to buy emergency equipment, but we have denied all requests." Kethvar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "And their government? Earth's leaders are trying to organize meetings with smaller council members, but most species are too afraid to help them. The humans are becoming desperate, sir." On one of the screens, Kethvar could see news reports from Earth. Crowds of people were gathering in the streets of major cities. Some carried signs demanding that their government accept the council's terms. Others seemed angry and wanted to fight back. The images showed exactly what Kethvar had expected to see. "Perfect," he said. "Soon their own people will force them to surrender. Humans may be stubborn, but they are not stupid. When their children start going hungry, they will give up this foolish resistance." Another officer approached with a datapad. "Sir, we have some strange reports from our monitoring stations near Earth's solar system." "What kind of strange reports?" 3 of our deep space sensors have stopped transmitting. Station 7 went silent 2 days ago. Station 12 stopped responding yesterday, and Station 15 just went dark an hour ago." Kethvar frowned. "Equipment failures. That's what we thought at first, sir. But these are our newest and most reliable sensors. The chance of 3 failing so close together is very small." "Are the humans attacking our stations?" "No, sir, our records show no human ships in those areas. No energy weapons fired. No explosions detected. The stations just stopped talking to us." Kethvar thought about this. The monitoring stations were placed far from Earth to watch for any human military activity. They were small and well hidden. Most humans probably did not even know they existed. "Send repair ships to investigate," he ordered, "and increase patrols in that region." "Yes, sir." Kethvar turned back to the main screens. One showed a human news broadcast where a woman was interviewing people waiting in line for food. Another showed Earth's president making a speech about staying strong during difficult times. A third screen displayed shipping records showing how few supply ships were reaching human colonies. Everything was going according to plan. The humans were breaking, just as every other species had broken when faced with Vorthon power. His aide spoke again. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Ambassador Chen. She's requesting another meeting with the Council." "How desperate does she sound?" "Very desperate, sir. Her message says Earth has an important proposal to discuss." Kethvar laughed. "I imagine they do. Schedule the meeting for tomorrow." Let's hear what terms they're willing to accept. Meanwhile, in a secure bunker deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a very different conversation was taking place. General Rodriguez sat at a table with 5 other people, all wearing the dark blue uniforms of Earth's secret defense force. The room was small and plain, lit by soft white lights that did not hurt the eyes. "Status report," Rodriguez said. Dr. Sarah Kim, the head of Earth Science Division, spoke first. "ZEUS is operating at full capacity. All primary systems are online. We're ready for the next phase." "And our people?" Rodriguez asked. "The actors we hired are doing a great job," said Colonel Park, the intelligence chief. "The fake food lines, the protest crowds, the worried news reports. Everything looks exactly like a civilization under stress. Even our own people don't know it's all theater." Commander Walsh, who ran the space operations, smiled. "The Vorthans have no idea that our real supply ships are using the new drive systems. We've been moving food and equipment to the colonies through dimensional shortcuts. Our people are actually better fed now than they were before the sanctions." "What about the monitoring stations?" Rodriguez asked. "All taken care of," Commander Walsh replied. "We're not destroying them, that would be too obvious. Instead, we're relocating them to pocket dimensions. The crews are fine. They're in comfortable facilities where they think they're still doing their jobs. They have no idea they're actually in a created reality." Dr. Kim leaned forward. "The quantum isolation fields are working perfectly. Each station crew believes they're still monitoring normal space. Their equipment shows them exactly what we want them to see. And if they try to communicate with their commanders, their messages are being received," Colonel Park said. "But not by who they think. We've created artificial communication networks that perfectly mimic Vorthon military systems. As far as each crew knows, they're still part of the Vorthon fleet." Rodriguez nodded. "This was the most complex deception in human history, but it was working. How much longer can we maintain this?" "As long as needed, sir," Dr. Kim replied. "ZEUS technology doesn't just manipulate energy and matter. It can create stable alternate realities. We could keep this going for years if necessary." "We won't need years," Rodriguez said. "Ambassador Chen is meeting with the Council tomorrow. After that, we move to the final phase." Commander Walsh looked concerned. "Sir, are we sure about this?" "Once we reveal ZEUS, there's no going back. The entire galaxy will know what we can do." "They'll know anyway," Rodriguez replied. "The Vorthans won't stop with just sanctions. They're planning a military attack. Our intelligence shows Admiral Kethvar is already gathering ships for a final assault on Earth." "When?" Colonel Park asked. "Soon, within the month. He thinks we're weak and desperate. He wants to finish us before we can recover." Dr. Kim smiled grimly. "He's in for quite a surprise." "Remember," Rodriguez said, "when this starts, we stick to the plan. No unnecessary killing. No revenge attacks. We show them our power, but we also show them our restraint. The galaxy needs to learn that humans are strong enough to be merciful." The others nodded. They had spent months preparing for this moment. Soon the galaxy would discover that Earth had not been hiding weapons at all. They had been hiding something much more dangerous than any weapon. They had been hiding a technology that could rewrite the basic rules of reality itself. Above them, on the surface of the ocean, fake supply ships continued their scheduled routes, carrying actors who pretended to be desperate refugees. On Earth's colonies, people went about their normal lives, fed and supplied by invisible ships that traveled through folded space. And in the depths of space, 3 more Vorthon monitoring stations quietly disappeared, their crews relocated to comfortable prisons they would never recognize as prisons. The trap was almost ready. Soon Admiral Kethvar would learn what happened when you cornered humans and gave them no choice but to fight back. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood before the massive steel doors that had been hidden beneath the Swiss Alps for 50 years. The doors were 30 feet tall and covered with symbols that seemed to shift and change when she looked at them directly. Behind her, a small group of the world's most important leaders waited in nervous silence. "Are you ready to see what we've really been building?" Elena asked. President Martinez nodded, but she could see the worry in his eyes. "The council meeting is in 6 hours. If we're going to reveal this, we need to understand it completely." Elena placed her hand on a scanner next to the doors. The device glowed blue for a moment. Then the massive doors began to open with a deep humming sound. Beyond the doors was a tunnel that seemed to stretch on forever, lit by a soft light that came from the walls themselves. "Follow me," Elena said, "and try not to touch anything unless I tell you it's safe." The group walked through the tunnel for 10 minutes. Along the way, They passed smaller doors and windows that showed glimpses of laboratories and workshops. In one room, scientists were working with materials that floated in the air without any support. In another, a technician was holding what looked like a small star in her bare hands. "My God," whispered General Kumar, the head of Earth's military forces. "How long has this been going on?" "We started the project in 2045, Elena replied. "Right after we made contact with the first alien species. We knew that if we were going to survive in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations, we would need something more than better guns and faster ships." "So you built what exactly?" asked Director Chen, the head of Earth's intelligence services. "We built a way to rewrite reality," Elena said simply. They reached the end of the tunnel and stepped into a vast chamber that seemed impossible. The room was circular and at least a mile across, but Elena knew that its actual size changed depending on what they needed it to be. In the center of the room was a sphere of pure light, 20 feet in diameter, floating 10 feet above the floor. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elena said, "meet ZEUS, the zero-point energy unified system." The sphere pulsed gently, and suddenly the air around them filled with a soft musical sound. It was beautiful and calming, like the sound of wind through trees or waves on a beach. "It's alive?" President Martinez asked. "Not alive exactly," Elena replied. "But not just a machine either. ZEUS exists at the boundary between energy and consciousness. It can manipulate matter, energy, space, and time by changing the basic quantum rules that govern reality." Director Chen stared at the floating sphere. "What can it do?" Elena smiled. "What can't it do? Watch." She spoke to the sphere in a normal voice. "ZEUS, please show our guests a simple demonstration." The sphere brightened for a moment, and then the air above their heads began to shimmer. Suddenly, a perfect miniature solar system appeared, floating 20 feet above them. Tiny planets orbited a small sun, and they could see clouds moving across the surface of the worlds. "This isn't a hologram," Elena explained. "Those are real planets, about the size of marbles, with real atmospheres and weather systems. ZEUS created them from pure energy." General Kumar reached toward one of the tiny worlds, then stopped himself. "Is it safe to touch?" "Perfectly safe. But be gentle. There are tiny cities on some of those planets, with beings no bigger than bacteria living full lives." As they watched, the miniature solar system slowly dissolved back into light and disappeared. "The fake shortages, the missing monitoring stations," President Martinez said. "That was all ZEUS." "ZEUS has been running our entire civilization for 6 months, Elena confirmed. "Every ship, every colony, every factory. We don't need galactic trade anymore. We don't need their technology. We can create anything we need from basic energy." Director Chen looked worried. "If this technology is so powerful, why didn't we use it to stop the sanctions? Why let our people think they were suffering?" "Because the galaxy needed to think we were weak," Elena replied. "If they knew what we really had, they would unite against us. Every species, no matter how much they hate each other, would join together to destroy Earth before we could become too powerful." "And now?" General Kumar asked. "Now it's too late for them to stop us. ZEUS isn't just one device, it's a network of quantum processors spread across every human world. Even if they destroyed Earth completely, the system would continue operating from our colonies." Elena led them to a control station near the sphere. The controls looked simple, just a few buttons and a screen, but she knew they could control the fundamental forces of the universe. "In 30 minutes, she said, "Admiral Kethvar will begin his attack on Earth. His fleet of 10,000 ships is already on its way. They think they're coming to destroy a desperate, weakened civilization." "How do you know about his fleet?" President Martinez asked. "Because we've been watching them for weeks. ZEUS can observe any point in space and time. We know their battle plans, their weapon capabilities, even what Admiral Kethvar had for breakfast this morning." Elena touched one of the controls, and the screen showed a view of space near Earth. Thousands of Vorthan ships were approaching in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready to fire. "They expect to find a small human defense fleet trying to protect Earth with primitive weapons," Elena continued. "Instead, they're going to meet Captain Lisa Park and the true human Space Force." "How many ships do we have?" General Kumar asked. Elena smiled. "How many do we need? ZEUS can create and control as many vessels as necessary. Each one is protected by reality manipulation fields that make them essentially invulnerable to conventional weapons." "Are we going to destroy them?" Director Chen asked quietly. No, Elena replied firmly. That's the point. We're going to show them something much more powerful than destruction. We're going to show them mercy. We're going to disable their entire fleet without killing a single enemy soldier. President Martinez looked uncertain. Are you sure that's wise? They came here to kill us. They came here because they're afraid, Elena said. The Vorthon Empire has ruled through fear for 1,000 years. They attack others because they believe everyone else would attack them if given the chance. Today we're going to prove them wrong. She touched another control and suddenly they could hear radio communications from the approaching Vorthon fleet. Admiral Kethvar's voice crackled through the speakers. All ships prepare for final assault. These humans have caused enough trouble. Today we end their threat to galactic peace forever. Elena looked at the group of Earth's leaders. In a few minutes, Admiral Kethvar is going to learn what real power looks like. And more importantly, he's going to learn what it means when that power is used with wisdom instead of fear. The sphere in the center of the room began to pulse faster, and the musical sound grew stronger. Across the solar system, similar spheres were awakening on every human world. The ZEUS network was coming fully online for the first time. The demonstration was about to begin. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, and watched Earth grow larger on the main screen. Behind him, 10,000 Vorthon warships moved in perfect formation through space. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Status report, he ordered. All ships ready for attack, sir. His weapons officer replied. Earth's orbital defenses are minimal. We detect fewer than 50 human ships in the area. Kethvar smiled coldly. 50 ships against 10,000. These humans will learn what happens when primitive species challenge the might of the Vorthon Empire. On his personal screen, he could see the human vessels spread out between his fleet and Earth. They looked small and weak compared to his massive dreadnoughts. Each of his ships was over 2 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. The human ships were barely visible dots on his sensors. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from one of the human vessels. Put it on screen, Kethvar ordered. Let's hear their final surrender. The screen flickered and suddenly they were looking at the bridge of a human ship. A woman in a dark blue uniform sat calmly in the captain's chair. She had short black hair and steady brown eyes that showed no fear at all. I am Captain Lisa Park of the Earth vessel Prometheus, she said in a clear, calm voice. Admiral Kethvar, you are trespassing in Earth's solar system. Please turn your fleet around and leave peacefully. Kethvar laughed, a harsh sound like metal breaking. Captain Park, you are either very brave or very stupid. I have 10,000 ships. You have 50. Surrender now and I will allow your people to live as slaves. Captain Park tilted her head slightly. Admiral, I think you've misunderstood the situation. We don't have 50 ships. My sensors don't lie, human. I can see your pathetic fleet. Your sensors are working perfectly, Park replied. But you're only seeing what we want you to see. Computer, decloak the fleet. Suddenly, space around Earth filled with light. Ships began appearing everywhere, above, below, to the sides of the Vorthon fleet. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands upon thousands. They seemed to materialize out of nothing, as if they had been invisible until that moment. Kethvar stared at his screen in shock. How many ships do you have? As many as we need, Captain Park replied simply. The new human vessels looked unlike anything in the galaxy. They were sleek and graceful, shaped like birds with wings spread wide. Their hulls seemed to be made of light itself, glowing with soft colors that shifted and changed as they moved. This is impossible, Kethvar's science officer whispered. Our sensors show they're there, but they don't follow any known laws of physics. Their reading is both matter and energy at the same time. Kethvar turned back to the screen. Tricks and illusions will not save you, human. All ships open fire. 10,000 Vorthon warships fired at once. The space between the fleets filled with energy beams, plasma bolts, and quantum torpedoes. It was enough firepower to shatter planets. But something impossible happened. The weapons passed harmlessly through the human ships as if they weren't there. Energy beams bent around them. Missiles simply disappeared. The most powerful weapons in the galaxy had no effect at all. What's happening? Kethvar demanded. Sir, his weapons officer said, his voice shaking. Our weapons are being redirected. Some are passing into alternate dimensions. Others are being converted into harmless light. And some are being sent back to empty space far from any ships. Captain Park's voice came through the speakers again. "Admiral, we tried to warn you. Your weapons cannot hurt us because we exist partially outside normal spacetime, but we can still affect your ships quite easily. Watch." On the screen, Kethvar could see one of his escort cruisers beginning to glow with the same soft light as the human vessels. The Vorthan ship didn't explode or break apart. Instead, it simply faded away like smoke in the wind. "Where did it go?" Kethvar shouted. "Somewhere safe," Captain Park replied. "The crew is unharmed. They're in a comfortable facility on a planet in the Andromeda Galaxy. They'll be returned home after this is over." Another Vorthan ship disappeared, then another. But instead of feeling afraid, Kethvar became angry. "You think these tricks make you superior? You're still just primitives playing with technology you don't understand." "Are we?" Park asked. She touched something on her chair, and suddenly the space around the Prometheus began to change. Stars appeared where there had been empty space, not distant points of light, but actual full-sized stars. Planets materialized in impossible orbits. Nebulae swirled in beautiful patterns that painted the darkness with every color imaginable. "This isn't an illusion, Admiral," Park explained. "We've temporarily adjusted the local quantum structure to overlay multiple regions of space in the same location. Those stars are real. Those planets have real atmospheres and real gravity. We're showing you a small fraction of what our technology can do." Kethvar watched in growing terror as his mighty fleet found itself surrounded by an impossible landscape of stars and worlds. Some of his ships were now orbiting planets that hadn't existed seconds before. Others were flying through the outer atmosphere of a gas giant that was somehow occupying the same space as empty vacuum. "How?" he whispered. "We call it Zeus," Park said. "It's not just a weapon or a shield. It's a way of rewriting the basic rules that govern reality. Matter, energy, space, time. They're all just different expressions of the same underlying quantum field. When you understand that field well enough, you can change anything." More Vorthan ships began to disappear, but instead of being destroyed, they were being gently relocated to safe positions far from the battle. Medical ships appeared near damaged vessels and began repairing them with beams of healing light. Injured crew members found their wounds closing and their pain disappearing. "You're not killing us," Kethvar said in confusion. "No," Park replied. "We could, but we choose not to." "Do you know why, Admiral?" Kethvar had no answer. "Because we learned something your empire never did. True strength isn't about how much you can destroy. It's about how much you can protect. Real power isn't making others fear you. It's making them trust you." The artificial star system around them began to fade and normal space returned. But now the human fleet surrounded the remaining Vorthan ships completely. Thousands of vessels made of light floated peacefully in perfect formation. "Admiral," Park continued, "your empire rules through fear because you believe that's the only way to maintain order. But fear creates more fear. Violence creates more violence. That cycle only ends when someone chooses to break it." Kethvar looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at their screens in shock and amazement. Outside, his mighty fleet was being systematically disabled by enemies who refused to kill them. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "We want the sanctions lifted," Park said. "We want recognition of Earth's sovereignty, and we want to offer something to the galaxy that it has never had before, which is a choice. Keep living in fear of each other, or learn to live in cooperation. The technology that makes our ships possible requires a level of consciousness that only develops in civilizations that have learned to work together instead of dominating each other." Captain Park leaned forward in her chair. "Admiral, your ships are disabled, but your crews are safe. You can return to the Council and report what you've seen here. Tell them that Earth offers to share our knowledge with any species that proves they can use it responsibly. And if we refuse, then you refuse. We won't force anyone to change, but we also won't allow anyone to threaten us again." Kethvar's flagship was the last Vorthan vessel still operational. Around him, space was full of human ships that could apparently do anything they wanted. Yet instead of conquering his fleet, they had chosen mercy. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Kethvar began to understand that he might have been wrong about everything. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked into the Galactic Council chambers for the second time in 7 months. But this time everything was different. She wore the same simple black suit, but floating beside her was a small device that hummed quietly and glowed with soft, shifting colors. The council members sat in their usual seats, but their expressions had changed completely. Where before there had been arrogance and dismissal, Now there was uncertainty and fear. News of Admiral Kethavar's defeat had spread across the galaxy in just 3 days. Admiral Kethavar himself sat in his chair at the front of the room, but he looked like a different person. His proud posture was gone. His glowing red eyes seemed dimmer. When he looked at Sarah, she could see something she had never expected to see in a Vorthon: humility. "Honored council members," Sarah began, "I have returned as requested to discuss the current situation between Earth and the galactic community." The floating device beside her pulsed gently, and suddenly a perfect miniature star appeared above the center of the room. It was only 3 feet across, but it gave off real heat and light. The council members stared at it in amazement and terror. "This is a working star," Sarah explained calmly. "Created from pure energy using technology we call ZEUS. It has real nuclear fusion at its core. Real magnetic fields. It could burn for millions of years." She gestured, and the star began to change. Its surface rippled like water. Then the entire thing transformed into a beautiful flower made of crystallized light. The petals opened and closed like it was breathing, and tiny sparks of electricity danced between them. "Or it can be something else entirely," Sarah continued. "ZEUS technology allows us to manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level. We can create, transform, or relocate anything within the bounds of physical law." The bird-like council member with silver feathers spoke up, his voice shaking slightly. "How long have you possessed this capability?" "We've been developing it for 50 years, Sarah replied. "But we only brought it fully online 6 months ago, when you imposed sanctions on Earth." A creature that resembled a large insect with crystalline wings buzzed nervously. "Why didn't you reveal it before now?" "Because we knew this would happen," Sarah said, gesturing around the room. "Look at your faces. You're all afraid. You're wondering if we're going to use this power to conquer you, to get revenge for the way you've treated us." She was right. Sarah could see the fear in every alien face around her. Some were trying to hide it, but the terror was obvious. "The reason we kept ZEUS secret," Sarah continued, "is because we wanted to give the galaxy a choice. If we had revealed this technology earlier, every species would have united against us. You would have attacked Earth before we were ready to defend ourselves." Kethavar finally spoke, his metallic voice much quieter than before. "And now? What will you do with this power?" Sarah smiled sadly. "The same thing we've always done, Admiral. We'll use it to protect our people and help our friends." The crystalline flower above them dissolved and reformed into a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Different regions were colored to show which species controlled which areas. The Vorthon Empire's territory was marked in red and covered nearly a quarter of all known space. "This is how the galaxy looks today," Sarah said. "The strong rule over the weak. Resources flow upward to the most powerful species. Weaker civilizations live in fear of being conquered or destroyed." The map began to change. The red areas representing Vorthon control started to shrink, while other colors expanded to represent smaller species gaining independence. "This is how the galaxy could look," Sarah explained. "With ZEUS technology, small species wouldn't need to fear large ones. Resources could be created instead of stolen. No one would need to live in slavery or terror." A council member who looked like a walking tree with a face carved in its bark spoke up. "You're offering to share this technology?" "With conditions," Sarah replied. "ZEUS isn't just a tool. It requires a specific type of consciousness to operate. The technology only works for civilizations that have learned to cooperate instead of dominate." She gestured again, and the map zoomed in to show the Vorthon home system. For example, Admiral Kethavar's people have built their entire society around the idea that the strong should rule over the weak. That mindset makes it impossible for them to understand how ZEUS works. Kethavar's eyes flared slightly. "Are you saying we're too primitive to use your technology?" "I'm saying you're too afraid," Sarah replied gently. "Your entire culture is based on fear. You attack others because you're afraid they'll attack you first. You rule through terror because you're afraid of losing control. That fear creates quantum interference that makes ZEUS technology unstable." The room was very quiet. Many of the council members were thinking about their own civilizations and wondering if they would be able to use the human technology. Sarah continued. "But fear can be overcome. Cultures can change. If Admiral Kethavar's people decided to build a society based on cooperation instead of domination, they could learn to use ZEUS just like anyone else." A small, mouse-like creature near the back of the room raised one tiny paw. "How do we know you won't use this power to rule over us like the Vorthons do?" Because we already proved we won't, Sarah replied. We had Admiral Kethvar's entire fleet helpless. We could have destroyed them all or taken them prisoner. Instead, we repaired their damaged ships and sent them home safely. She looked around the room at all the different species. Let me be very clear about Earth's position. We will not join your council. We will not submit to your authority. We will not allow anyone to threaten our people again. Some of the council members looked worried, but Sarah continued before they could speak. However, we're not interested in ruling over anyone else either. We want to trade freely, explore peacefully, and help our friends when they ask for it. Any species that wants to learn ZEUS technology is welcome to try, as long as they can prove they'll use it responsibly. The tree-like being asked, how would we prove that? By changing how your civilization works, Sarah explained. ZEUS requires quantum consciousness, a way of thinking that only develops when individuals learn to work together for the good of all, instead of competing for personal advantage. Sarah touched the floating device, and suddenly the air filled with dozens of small objects that looked like butterflies made of pure light. They flew around the room in beautiful patterns, landing gently on the hands and shoulders of council members who didn't pull away. These aren't just pretty decorations, Sarah said. Each one is a quantum consciousness probe. They can sense the mental patterns of anyone they touch. The ones landing on you are indicating that you have the potential to develop the mindset needed for ZEUS technology. More than half the council members had light butterflies perched on them. But notably, Admiral Kethvar and several other Vorthan representatives had none. Admiral, Sarah said softly, this doesn't mean your people are inferior. It just means you have more work to do. Fear is a habit, but like any habit, it can be changed with time and effort. Kethvar stared at his empty hands for a long moment. When he looked up, his red eyes were thoughtful instead of angry. What would we need to do? Start by releasing the species you've conquered, Sarah replied. Let them govern themselves. Help instead of controlling. Protect instead of dominating. It won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight, but it's possible. The small mouse-like creature spoke again. And if some species refuse to change, if they try to use this technology for evil, then they won't be able to use it at all, Sarah said simply. ZEUS technology is self-limiting. It becomes unstable and useless in the hands of those who would use it to harm others. Think of it as a built-in safety feature. Sarah gestured, and the light butterflies began to fade away. The crystalline flower above them transformed one final time, becoming a simple globe that showed the planet Earth in all its blue and green beauty. My friends, Sarah said, Earth offers the galaxy something it has never had before. A chance to build a civilization based on cooperation instead of fear. We can't force anyone to take that chance, but we can make it possible. She looked directly at Admiral Kethvar. The choice is yours, Admiral. All of yours. You can keep living in the old way, where the strong prey on the weak and everyone lives in fear. Or you can join us in building something new. The room was silent for a long time. Finally, Kethvar spoke in a voice that was barely above a whisper. Ambassador Chen, he said, why didn't you simply conquer us when you had the power to do so? Sarah smiled, and for the first time since she had known him, Admiral Kethvar saw genuine warmth in her expression. Because we learned something you never did, Admiral, she replied. True power isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you choose to create. The meeting ended with no formal agreements, no signed treaties, no grand declarations. But as the council members filed out of the chamber, many of them were talking quietly among themselves about change, about hope, about the possibility of a galaxy where no one had to live in fear. Admiral Kethvar was the last to leave. As he reached the door, he turned back to look at Sarah one more time. Ambassador, he said, I think I would like to learn about this cooperation you speak of. Sarah nodded.